Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters, and the agent of animated awesome. It is Monday. That means it is animated series day. We are going to be reviewing the penultimate episodes. Well, penultimate episode of this series. We have 3 episodes left, sort of, and that'll be next week, and then we'll be done and moving on to a new one. I might throw in a little extra surprise there because 3 episodes will be pretty short. But before we get too much further into it, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. The comments recently have just been really fun to read and respond to and contain lots of great information. And if you could, watch 4 or 5 minutes. Watch to the end. There will be shout outs. So you just never know who will be shouted out. Is that even a thing? Having said all that, let's roll the credits. All right, our first episode today is episode 46, The Return of Fancy Prancy, or Machi Karakita Jane. Jane returns from the city, apparently, is the transliteration. This was first broadcast in Japan on August 17th, 1966, and about a year later, possibly in the United States in 67. So our 50th episode, it was broadcast September 14th, 1966 in Japan. Anyway, this is the 46th one, and it just starts out with the kids playing who can hang on to the tree limb the most while the gorilla jumps on the other one trying to shake them off. Not a very safe game, but they're dumb. Kimba wins, and then suddenly a car drives up, and this rich, probably very entitled woman drops off a cheetah that she stole from the jungle when it was young, but she can't keep it anymore in the city. Now, both the cheetah and the woman, that's Fancy Prancy there, you can tell she's fancy because she's got a hat on, have southern accents. I mean, I suppose that works. But there's her little brother, and he's called Speedy, but he's also been Dot or Dash. So some of the animal names get mixed around here and there, which is all right. But he's happy that she's back. How could he have been born when she was alive or when she left? But, the vagary, if you think too much about these cartoons, you're probably watching them like me. And the animals come to meet her, but she doesn't like where her parents live because it's a hovel. And she's ever so sophisticated, I do declare. So she wants to live in this tree. And Polly doesn't like her. Daniel doesn't like her. And Kimba's not sure, but he feeds Kimba. And they build her, the animal. She's conned them into building her a house because she's a real little lady. And she sings, but then these two get in a fight and interrupt her. And Daniel's annoyed, and she uses him as to get across the water. I mean, she doesn't know any better. It's a cruel thing to try to return an animal who's been civilized into the wild because they're not going to survive. I mean, they're lucky, or Fancy's lucky he got dropped off in Kimba's kingdom where they have restaurants and amusement parks. So this causes a divide between the animals. Some of them don't like Fancy and some of them do. You can tell Daniel gets a stick to the face. But all this goes on there, and it's just blah, blah, blah. And Kimba's like, I don't want to be part of it. So this all goes on until the army ants, they just call them ants, but they're army ants. They attack, and they're obviously stripping animals down to the bone. And there they are. And now they've got to go find, because Speedy's lost, and one's on Daniel's bottom, and there's a whole sequence here. So they get out here, and then Kimba's like, it's not my fault he ran away, but Kimba goes and saves him, puts him in a hole, jumps down into the water, and the ants just follow him in and drowned. Apparently, I mean, didn't they have an anteater there? So once again, insects and bothersome animals are Kimba just kills them wantonly. Wantonly. They think that Speedy's dead and he's alive, and Fancy, we never see Fancy again. So we don't know what happened to her. Claw probably would have fallen in love with her, but I think we're done with Claw. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we are. So now they're playing the game again. I guess that might be a chimpanzee. And Fancy and Dan will get into an argument. She gets her butt kicked, but the kids are just watching them there while they're yelling. The end. All right, now we're on to the giant spider episode, which I'm sure Asian Frog would just love this one. Who's the one who brought the jungle pain? So, yeah, it's really about a giant spider. Another speedy cheetah. This is how we were introduced, and it knows where. No, it still looks like it's shooting web out of its mouth. I don't know what the Japanese have about that. Kimba, hers, but their Boss Rido's gotten webbed up. The cheetah's gotten webbed up. Kimba gets webbed up, and he looks like an inchworm now. Then we see our spider, who does not get a name, and you can tell what's going to happen to the spider because apparently killing insects and arachnids is okay with the sensors. Spoiler alert. But he calls him a worm. I mean, there's a lot of wordplay in here, almost too much in some of these episodes. Kimba jumps in, the water washes he calls them cobwebs, which is true. Cob is an old term for spider. So is addercop, but no spider likes to be called that. So he goes looking for everybody, and the whole jungle's webbed up because this thing's mammoth. I mean, let's see, it's called the cobweb caper, yes, the monstrous spider, Madara Gumo, or Kumo, is another the word for, as in Kumanga, the giant spider that fights Godzilla. And they're the survivors who haven't been webbed up. Now, apparently, the spider is not super hungry at the moment because he hasn't sucked their insides, turned them into jelly and sucked their insides out. But he's gonna. The kids are hungry, so off they go. Kimba gets bitten by, that's a tsetse fly there, and gets bitten and gets the fever. Random picture of a hippo for Lilith. And there's our spider. We get a better shot of him. The Shelob or Kumanga, whatever you want to call it. And a couple more hippos. And this just kind of it looks like a daddy longlegs here. But Daniel's trying to bring Kimba's fever down. I mean, apparently tsetse flies are deadly to lions. Nothing else, just lions. But Kimba says, does the spider have a enemy? And Daniel realizes, yes, they are spider wasps, which we know as mud daubers here in this part of the world. See, mud daubers. So they send the kids, everyone gets out to get them. They don't always do a great job. They don't swarm like bees. I mean, they don't. Wasps are very solitary animals. They do prey on spiders and put their eggs inside of them, that's for sure, which nobody bothered to say anything here, but in this universe, in Kimba 66, K66, it's just acceptable. Kimba goes out to fight, but he's still weak and he falls over like he's drunk. And he does battle the spider, and then they launch the wasps at him. These wasps also make honey, which regular wasps do not. And off they go, and the spider can talk, of course, and he's like, hey, wasps. And Kimba lures it to the edge, pushes it over into the water. Apparently the wasps attacking it die as well as the spider, but it drowns. The end. Well, they unravel all their friends. Which, if once the cobweb dries up, it's not sticky anymore. So, and speaking of drying up, now we have the Red Menace. Who's the king of animals in Africa? Kimba the White Lion is his name. We have had fire shown up in the episodes before, but this time it's the biggest fire that ever has been in there, and all we can say about it is
fire.
Yep, glad I saved that one. But the animals are what the kids are watching it, and Daniel's annoyed at them. But then they realize that they're in Golly Gap Valley, and that's where Pee Wee lives. And we've met Pee Wee before, Pee Wee Elephant, who likes to say "goody gumdrops." He says gumdrops a lot, and I could, if I had taken a shot every time he said gumdrops, I'd have been way more awesome right now. Kids get run over by rhinos who are leaving. Kimba gets his tail lit on fire, and then they finds Pee Wee, and they're happy doing their little spirit dance there. Um, Pee Wee's mom is happy, but they take him over to their side of the, where the fire isn't, in Kelly Funt's territory. And now Kelly Funt is also Scottish right now. He was not before, but he is now. And he says, "Get out." Somebody throws a rock at him, but he says, "Get out. You can't have our grass." So we see Tim and Tub again. Tim and Tom and Tub, the two hyenas, and Kimba tells him, don't tell Kelly Funt we're here. And so immediately they do, because they're still jerks. They get thrown into the dungeon, and then the fire comes through Kimba's territory, jungle, but the rain puts it out, and they rescue. Somebody tells them, one of the birds tells them where they are. Not Polly, because Polly's rather useless. He doesn't get beat up as much this time, or at all. He gets to smack around Daniel in the last episode, as we saw. But then the fire shows up again, and the animals turn themselves into living bulldozers, or a giant bulldozer to build a firewall or a firewall. And then somebody tells them, another bird probably, that Kelly Funt's elephants are trapped, and so they go rescue Kelly. And Daniel shames him, and he helps them out with their firewall. There you go, more hippos pushing, and they stop the fire. See, and there's Kimba's side, but the Golly Gap elephants go back. Patsy is Pee Wee's mom, Pee Wee and Patsy, pachyderm, and that's it. So everyone's happy again. The end. So here's a fun episode, the Sun Tree, where we get to meet Daniel's old uncle Scratch Baboon. And, oh man, I meant to put in, "Oh no, Ma." Beaky Buzzard shows up. No. He's got a message. And that's where they find out that Daniel has a living uncle who's older than he is. And they've been calling Daniel Uncle Daniel for the last 4 episodes, since 46, which is weird because that's not something they've used for the whole time. But they figured they must have needed to say it. And it's in all 5 of these episodes. Oh, there's some frogs. There you go, frog. And so they're headed for the Sun Tree where Daniel's uncle lives. And there's bats, and that's Muffy the baboon. Muffy is not the preppy from Square Pegs. Square Pegs, Square Pegs, Square Pegs. That show should have lasted a couple seasons, at least 3 or 4 seasons. But more of Daniel Butt, because anytime you have an episode of baboons, you get lots of baboon butt. And they climb up there. This is one of the funnier gags, and I don't know that I'd have caught it right away, but Daniel says, Uncle Scratch, I'd recognize that face anyway. And he says, "It's not my, that's not my face, Daniel." That made me laugh because I'm 12. So Muffy and Kimba are kind of bonding. Then Kimba has a dream, and the tree talks to him. There's the tree looking like an ent. There's little spirit Kimba right there. And he says, you got to get the animals out because, my time is up. Now, since trees are sort of eternal, Kimba doesn't know this, and neither does the audience. And Kimba wants to save the tree. See, there's little spirit Kimba. Because the tree, the sun tree, tells him the story of how it's the sun tree. These animals want to get out of the tree, which is what the tree told Kimba to tell him to do, so they don't get hurt. But Kimba and Scratch are stubborn. I'm not sure what these are supposed to be, because I guess they're some kind of monkey, some kind of ape, lesser ape. More frogs. There's Crackers the parrot. Crackers? I don't know. But there's a storm, of course. The frogs are happy. The tree has just been disintegrated. Now Kimba and Muffy are going to fight, but then the sunlight stops them. And look at the new tree. It's not a new tree. It is a new tree, but it's still the same tree. So it's just going to grow back. Now Muffy and Kimba are friends. The end. They had to travel back, I suppose. Now this one, speaking of traveling, Soldier of Fortune. There's two. This is about a sea lion. Everyone says seal, but they don't know they're pinnipeds, like some people who paid attention. The one who just won't turn and run, who believes in doing good and doing right. And there you go. So Bucky's running in. It's the middle of the night. Something strange is coming to the jungle. There's Caesar's hide there. And Kimba goes out, and they got to go meet. Can't see him, so little Petey Porcupine Cone comes out and gets everyone out of the way. And now they're like they can't figure out what it is, whether it's a fish or a mammal, and it's a sea lion. So he's got ears and big flippers and separate feet, which is a sea lion. And they're big. They're much bigger than seals. Seals are super cute in the water, and they look like sausages with flippers on the land and move about the same. But they're smelly because you know. I was visited the seals in La Jolla all the time. Still a tourist attraction, but I don't know if they're still there. I'll have to ask somebody. Kimba wants to go see, and that is Floppo. In the Japanese title is Otto the Adventurer. So his name's Otto, but Floppo, I don't know, Floppo, he sounds like a clown, the failed clown. But he's on a world tour and going to the Indian Ocean. And Kimba wants to go. Of course, that's on the other side of Africa. And so Daniel convinces Boss Rhino to go with him. And Bucky goes, and Dodie goes, and Polly goes. Off they go. And there's a tree in the way. And this is how Boss Rhino settles that. They're like, can you see? He's very direct. Anyway, he gets into a fight with more apes. And apparently sea lions are impervious to stones. And he sings, and then the gorillas like it, and they let him pass. And they're trying to climb up the mountains with a rhinoceros and a seal. Neither of them are built for mountain climbing. In fact, Kimba's not really built for mountain climbing, and Dodie might be the only one. Kimba's homesick, but he's determined to go with his new friend. And I don't even know what's going on here. Polly's saying, look, there's the ocean. We found the ocean. They all running in there, and it's a lake. Because Floppo says, no, it's not salt water. And suddenly, there's a lake monster. I mean, these things in Africa just show up out of the blue. I'm not exactly, it kind of looks like, it might be a plesiosaur. It might be a sauropod, like the brontosaur from Skull Island, which had sharp teeth and chomped down on sailors. But, it gets hold of Bucky and Kimba rescues him, and then it looks like it's throwing up, but really our heroes got into a cave, but it just looks like it's throwing up all over them. Down, 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 and out. They wake up on the other side of the mountain, and there's the Indian Ocean. Papa says, okay, well, this is it. Our time together is done. And he's not wrong. So it is. And those are our 5 episodes. And I do like that shot of Kimba. Reminds me of some other movie that kind of copied it. And having said all that, my fellow agents, I hope you have enjoyed it. We have 3 more episodes left. And that'll be next week. And then tomorrow will be probably a comedy movie of some kind. But until our next assignment, I'm going to wind this back just a bit. And we'll let Kimba play us out and enjoy the textless opening here after we follow up with that. Who's the one who just won't turn and run? Until our next assignment, this is X7 signing off. Kimba the White Lion is the one. Kimba, 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 who lives down in deepest, darkest Africa.
Who's the one who brought the jungle fame? Who's the king of animals in Africa? Kimba the White Lion is his name. When we get in trouble and we're in a fight, who's the one who just won't turn and run? Who